What's up, athletes? I'm your host, Cooper Bryson.
I'm Damian Charles.
Welcome back to the Wired Up podcast. We have to talk about it. The story that's shaking the sports world.
Juan Soto, everyone. Juan Soto.
All right, Damian, you're my baseball guy. Break down this contract for me.
Absolutely, Cooper. Juan Soto has agreed with the New York Mets for a whopping 15-year, $765 million contract.
Sorry, did you say 15 years?
15 years.
Wow.
Yes. So now that he is going to be playing with the Mets, what are the next steps for the Yankees and also other teams were in the pursuit for him?
The Jays were looking to acquire him, weren't they?
They were looking to acquire him, and that's the same thing that happened last year with Shohei Ohtani, and it ended up not working out. And now we're back in that same position. So what are the next steps for the Jays? What are the next steps for other teams that were in the Juan Soto talks?
So what do you think the Jays should do?
Well, first of all, for a team that finished in last position, in the AL East, I think that the best thing that I could have done is not sign Juan Soto.
Why is that?
I think that spending $765 million on one player, is a lot of money, right? And I think that if you're able to go out and find 2 to 3 players that are able to help out the team in other areas instead of just one player, the team can benefit from that in the long run, because imagine in 15 years, Juan Soto will probably be like 41. And at that time, it's like, do you really want to be paying $765 million to someone who is going to be of that age?
Something similar like that's happening in hockey right now, Sidney Crosby. Pittsburgh Penguins captain Sidney Crosby is taking a huge pay cut. The guy is easily a $12 million player. But his contract he's never been paid more than 8.7. It may be superstition, but I think it's because he's such a strong captain for his team. They can reallocate those, that money that they would have spent on Crosby.
Of course.
Somewhere else. Crosby's, he's an older guy now. He's reaching his mid to late 30s.
Of course, yeah.
He's just, overall, just team player, that guy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's actually funny. Something like that actually happened similar in the NBA.
Oh, really? Who?
It was actually Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. So Jalen Brunson, a couple years back, got traded to the Knicks from the Dallas Mavericks. And he ended up becoming a young superstar there on the New York Knicks. And he took a $113 million pay cut and signed a 4-year, $156 million contract extension with the team.
Wow.
Yeah, and with that happening, it allowed the Knicks to find better players that can help them go on for a championship run. That's
insane. So, we got to talk about, the pay difference between sports. You said $100 million contract in the NBA?
Yeah.
That's what a player would be making over, 10 years if they were good in the NHL.
See, that's insane. And then you look at Juan Soto now. He's over here getting paid $765 million over the span of 15 years.
That's insane.
Incredible, man. And if you ask me, I do not think that baseball players put in enough work and time to be getting those type of contracts. I think that hockey players and basketball players put in so much time and more work, I believe, than baseball players who just kind of stand there and hit dingers.
Absolutely. Soccer players especially. I think it's a very underrated performance because you were playing a full 90 minutes running up and down the field.
Absolutely.
So you're a soccer fan, right? How about Chelsea? How are they doing?
You know what? I'm glad you know that Chelsea is my favorite team. Chelsea's doing amazing right now. I couldn't be happier. I think that Chelsea's doing amazing. I think that their coaches Enzo Maresca came in and did a great job. Obviously last season wasn't really good. They finished in the 6th spot. It was good enough for a Conference League spot. But this year they throughout 15 games they have 31 points, 4 points back of first place Liverpool. And I think that this is all going to be beneficial in the long run because the team is very young. We're seeing glimpses and growth, and I think that will be this is going to be good for long term success.
So let's talk about this process that starts long-term success. Let's talk about tanking. Like, I feel bad for the players who are on teams that do tank. Like, I get it from, like, a business side. Like, you want to get the best players possible.
Yeah, of course.
And sometimes you have to shoot yourself in the foot.
Mm-hmm.
I feel terrible for the players that are on that team. Like, the other night, Trevor Zegras scored a shootout goal against the Ottawa Senators, and he just didn't care. Like, I feel so bad because, like, he is such talent.
I know.
Such talent. And it's being wasted on a team that hasn't made the playoffs since before he was drafted. Trevor Zegras hasn't seen a playoff game. And you want to, like, see them out of there, right?
Yeah, 100%, man. Like, I think that's huge, man. Like, having players, like talented players on teams like this that are just tanking and trying to build through drafts, it's kind of hard because it kind of ruins their development. I mean, maybe when they first start out in the league, it's good because they will get that game time that they need. They can play through certain situations, but as they start to grow and get better, it becomes a fine line between where it's like, do we want to continue? Do we want to keep this player, or do we want to have, like, trade them away to a different team so that maybe they can have a chance at winning the Stanley Cup? You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, everyone's like an asset in, like, on the business side, right? But sports is so much about like the human side,
of
right?
Of course.
And I feel terrible for the players. Like look at the Raptors this year.
Yeah, like, that's definitely a good point, Cooper. I think the Raptors, if you look at their record, they're 7-17 right now, sitting in the second last position, just above the Washington Wizards, who are 3-19, right? And I think what the Raptors need right now is just they lack experience, right? So if you look at it, most of the games that they've lost this season, it's been by like 3 or 4 points. And that is just due to the lack of experience that they have, right? You have a bunch of young players. You have a promising Scotty Barnes, right? Who's still trying to figure out how to be a guy on the team, be a leader, you know? Then you bring in guys like Jamal Shed. You have Jamison Battle, you know, Jacoby Walters. These are guys that Raptors drafted this season, right? And I think that the Raptors can be something special in the future. But now it's just a fine line of what are you trying to do this season? Are you trying to make it into that playoff play-in position and play in that tournament and make it into the 10th seed? Or are you guys trying to just, you know, tank and try to get Cooper Flagg, who's at the University of Duke, I believe? You know, so it all depends on what the organization wants to do. They have made it clear that they are trying to rebuild. But now it's like, are the Raptors too good to be rebuilding? Like, should they try to make it into the play-in and play in that play-in game and try to make it to the playoffs? Or should they just, like, focus on tanking and hope for the best?
Exactly. Well, I think that brings us to our time today, Damian. I'm Cooper Bryson.
I'm Damian.
We've been the Wired Podcast, signing out.